Hey everyone, today we're going to talk about the story of learning itself. I mean, how do we get from those super rigid classrooms of the past to the way we learn today, which is so much more dynamic and self-driven? All right, let's get into it.
Okay, let me ask you something. Have you ever been stuck in a lecture, just kind of zoning out, feeling the information wash right over you? If you've ever thought to yourself, man, there has to be a better way to learn than this, well, you're absolutely right, because the way we learn, it's going through this huge shift right now.
So here's the main idea, and it's actually pretty simple. Think of learning theories as, well, growing up, just like people do. We're about to walk through this whole spectrum, starting from when we're dependent learners in a classroom, all the way to becoming totally self-directed in our jobs and, in life.
And this right here, this timeline maps out that journey perfectly. See, it all starts with something called pedagogy. That's basically your childhood classroom, right? The teacher is the star of the show. Then we grow up and move into andragogy, which is all about how we learn as adults. And the final stop is heutagogy. That's where you are completely in the driver's seat of your own education.
Okay, this table is awesome because it really breaks down that transformation. Just look at the learner role. You see how you go from being this dependent student to an independent learner, and then finally to an independent trailblazer? And check out the teacher's role too. It goes from this authority figure to more of a facilitator, and then eventually they become just a trusted guide on your personal learning journey. Pretty cool, right?
All right, so theory is great and all, but how do we actually use this stuff? Well, it really boils down to two super powerful methods: case-based learning and problem-based learning. Let's break them down.
First up, we've got case-based learning, or CBL for short. The best way to think about this is like you're a detective and someone just handed you a complete case file. You get this real-world scenario, all the background info's there, the problem is laid out pretty clearly, and your job is to use what you know to crack the case. And you've got a guide there to help you if you get stuck.
Now, problem-based learning, or PBL, this is a whole different animal. It's messy. It's chaotic. Instead of a neat case file, you're basically just dropped into a complex, real-world situation where the problem isn't even clear. Seriously, your first job is just to figure out what the heck the problem is that you're trying to solve. It's pure, open-ended investigation.
So, okay, you've got the guided and structured CBL on one side and the totally open-ended exploratory PBL on the other. They might sound kind of similar, but trust me, the experience of doing them is worlds apart. So let's put them head-to-head and see the difference.
So look here, with CBL, you've got a pretty clear path forward, right? It's guided, you get materials to read beforehand, and the facilitator is actively involved. But then you look at PBL, and it's like being sent into the wilderness with nothing but a compass. It's completely open, there's no pre-reading, and the facilitator is super hands-off. The key difference, the thing that changes everything, it's the level of structure.
Okay, so given the choice between those two, which one do you think people actually prefer? Well, a really big study looked at two medical schools that actually switched from the super open-ended PBL to the more structured CBL. And the answer was pretty shocking. A whopping 88% of students said they preferred case-based learning. That's huge.
And get this, it wasn't just the students. The faculty felt the same way, with 89% preferring CBL. And why? Well, they found it did a better job of keeping the learning relevant, it really sharpened their practical skills, and maybe most importantly, it cut way down on what felt like busy work. That structure just gave everyone a clearer path to the finish line.
But hold on, this doesn't mean CBL is just flat out better than PBL. The truth is, they both share this incredibly powerful common goal, and this quote really nails it. Both methods are designed to push you, to force you to think from all these different angles, and that is what really truly deepens your understanding.
Okay, so why does any of this matter if you're not in a classroom? Here's why. This isn't just some dusty academic theory. These are the exact methods that top professionals are using every single day to solve some of the world's most complex, most difficult problems.
Think about it. In medicine, when a doctor diagnoses a patient with a specific set of symptoms, that's a classic case-based approach. But what about in a global crisis when scientists are scrambling to find patient zero of a new pandemic? The facts are messy, unclear. That's a problem-based approach in real time. And it's the exact same thing in business and law. You might study the case of a company's big failure to learn from its mistakes. Or you could be a lawyer handed a super complex legal mess, and your first job is just to define the core issue before you can even think about building a defense for your client.
And believe it or not, these methods scale all the way up to the biggest global issues.
To tackle something as huge as foreign aid, policymakers don't just sit around crunching numbers, no. They dive deep into the specific case of a country in conflict, they analyze it from every single stakeholder's perspective, and only then do they decide what to do. This is learning in action.
So, when you boil it all down, what's the big takeaway? The entire evolution we've been talking about, from those old school classrooms all the way to PBL, it's all about one single empowering shift. It's about moving from being a passive person that information just happens to becoming the active architect of your own learning and your own growth.
Because at the end of the day, learning isn't something that just happens to you. It's something you do. The future, for sure, belongs to the people who can define their own problems and chart their own course. So the only question left is, are you ready to take the lead?